Final Approach to Game Day, brought to you by Final Approach Irrigation. It is week 4 of the high school football playoffs, and we have two monumentous matchups tonight. One, Bluntstown is going to try to bring home a state title against the Hawthorne Hornets, but the one everyone is talking about tonight is the Choctaw Indians are hosting the defending 4A state champions, American Heritage Patriots, tonight at 7 o'clock at Joe Etheridge Stadium. Winner of the game advances to the 4A state championship game and next week, I believe. So all that and more on another episode of Final Approach to Game Day, brought to you by Final Approach Irrigation. And we are back. It is, again, week 4 of high school football playoffs action. I am Colin Bester, a professional ball knower. And that is Christopher Saul, the publisher of Midday News.
I didn't even notice you put that down there. Nice. You stuck that one in. That was good.
But we are here for another edition. I know it's cold and rainy. Hopefully the rain, I guess, lets up as we get closer to kickoff at Joe Etheridge Stadium. But it should be a fun evening of high school football in Northwest Florida, in Fort Walton Beach. We'll talk about that game a little later. We have to start first. We're going back to last week in the 4A Region 1 bracket as the Choctaw Indians beat St. Augustine. It was sort of for them, it was sort of the first mountain they had to climb over in this playoff pursuit for the past couple of years. St. Augustine has been a thorn in the Choctaw Indian side for the past couple of years, and Choctaw did it on the road. They were an 8-point favorite, and actually they won by 3. So good job. So the Indians moved on to 11-2 against the spread. So if you're a betting person, you probably won a lot of money on Choctaw if you could do that. But Christopher, we'll start with you. Choctaw beating St. Augustine by 3 on the road. Choctaw becomes the Region 1 winner in 4A. How do you think that game played out for you?
Easily the most impressive game of the season for Choctaw for a couple of reasons. St. Augustine's offense, very good offense run by a very capable quarterback who is going to be back for another year of football next year. I think probably the best quarterback I have seen play high school football. And Choctaw held them to 4 scores. I mean, when you have a team that is that good on offense, to hold them to 4 scores is not nothing. Now, it's not like the world beater elite, whatever LSU's defense is going to look like next year kind of thing under Lane Kiffin and $25 million of NIL money, but respectable, right? But I think that the real story, the real win for this Choctaw Indians team last week was the fact that they put up 31. I thought Taman Zavaticus looked really good. I think Vontavious Miller had a very good game. Zion Legree caught a couple of game winners. The defense did what it needed to do. It got a fumble late against an elite quarterback. I think he's an elite quarterback. They did everything right. And they won on the road. And now they're at home. A couple of things that we'll talk about when we talk about this game against American Heritage that I want to point out that I feel are advantages for Choctaw, besides just home field. But this was the most impressive win for Choctaw and probably for everybody outside of that Crestview over Niceville win that we saw in week 4. I thought that comeback win for Crestview showed a lot of guts, and that'd probably be my best viewed game of the year, the most exciting game of the year. But this one was not far off of it. And all credit is due to those guys on the field. The Alloway brothers also committing this week, so big day. One going to Liberty University, one going to Jacksonville State, Zion Legree going to Wisconsin. So plenty of talent on the field for Choctaw, but plenty more talent on the field for American Heritage when we talk about that game coming up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my takeaways from this is, first off, shout out to Gareth Stearns for going live the entire fourth quarter. much to his detriment, I believe. I know
Yes.
he's been having Facebook issues this week, so I think the FHSA found out about it, or NFHS found out about it and sort of took him off Facebook, and he can't really post anything. But he did everyone in Okaloosa County a solid to watch this game. He could have also broadcasted. I couldn't get the broadcast link to work, but besides the point. But for me, the storyline for Choctaw this whole season was this was a team that everyone knew they could eventually get to this position into the Final Four. They just had to go through St. Augustine to do it. Losing to Enterprise, I think I don't even if it was a Choctaw home game.
I think it lit a fire under their ass.
Oh yeah,
I think it was the best thing that could have happened.
Yeah, I think everyone says, losing at the end of the season is probably better for you going into the playoffs because you know what the team needs to work on, and I guess it worked. If you look at this Region 1 bracket, blowing out Booker T. Washington at home. I know that score was really not indicative of how the game played because Booker T. Washington could drive down the field at certain times. It's just that Choctaw's defense, stood their ground, and Booker T. Washington just didn't, really accomplish 5 finalized drives. Then Choctaw goes. They get a home game the week after against Columbia. They're down 20-7 against Columbia. A couple turnovers puts Choctaw back in the game, and they win by 7. And then St. Augustine versus Choctaw was sort of like a boxing match. I guess it was they scored, Choctaw would score, St. Augustine scored, Choctaw would score. And then eventually it came down to defense, and that Choctaw defense actually, I think, was probably the most impressive thing from that St. Augustine. That's the biggest takeaway I have is how good that defense performed under pressure. Now they get a home game against American Heritage, which we'll talk about in a couple moments. But for Choctaw, at this point, 12-1, I don't think a lot of people thought that Choctaw would make it this far. Mm-hmm. I think there were a lot of questions on offense for Choctaw. And it seems like every single week they prove people wrong. And outside the Choctaw faithful, once you get down to like Central Florida and South Florida, it's a different type of football versus what you see in the Panhandle. And that's the biggest, I think, takeaway we've talked about in a couple of weeks that we've got a lot of hate on for social media. And Christopher has got a lot of hate on for social media, not so much I. But
I'm right, by the way.
Yeah. The hate makes us stronger. All right.
That's right. I don't care if they boo. I've seen what makes them cheer. So
yeah, good job. I sent you that meme, so thank you for remembering that. But before we get to the Choctaw game, which is I know what everyone is wanting us to talk about, this American Heritage team, we have to talk about another school in Northwest Florida who's competing for a championship, and that is the Blountstown Tigers. As they moved on through the entire bracket to face the number 2 seed. I'm sorry that says number 1 Hawthorne, but that's my bad. I'm the one who makes the brackets every week. So for people who don't know that, it's my fault. So I will take full responsibility for that. But the Blountstown Tigers are currently riding their undefeated season right now, and they have moved on to face Hawthorne tonight in the Rural State Championship game. Blountstown had a big week signing-wise. Amari Thomas, their star running back, signed with Florida State University, which I was very surprised that he was a 3-star running back, considering the stat sheet he's pulled up this year, over 2,000 yards on the ground. But he is from Blountstown, so
there it is. Okay,
yeah. If he was at like a 2A, 3A, 4A school, he probably would have been a 4 or 5-star athlete.
Or maybe he would have run into a wall from a 3A school. That's the problem with rural is it's so much smaller. It's an order of magnitude smaller than even like 2A. Mm-hmm. It's hard to accurately judge how good those teams are, right? We thought Baker was, a top 3 or 4 team by the end of our regular season while we were doing power rankings. And then they just got smoked by Chiefland. And that's a hard L, man. Chiefland, not a bad team, but not like, not to sound like everybody that hates we should just let all the boys play theory of ball. But to me, that makes sense why he'd be a 3-star recruit.
Yeah. And on the season, Amari Thomas has 117 carries. He's at 1,799 yards. We'll just say he's at 1,800. That's 149 yards a game and 21 touchdowns. The whole team has scored 48 rushing touchdowns, so he's responsible for almost 50% of the offensive scoring production from Blountstown. The quarterback's also pretty good, James Jones. He's a junior. He'll be back next year for this Blountstown team. So they'll be forces to be reckoned with next year in the rural division as well. But I think at this time it's Blountstown as a team of destiny at this point. They've run through everybody, and they were heavily the high favorites in each game from Florida High School Football. .com. Florida High School Football gave them the 14-point favorite over Hawthorne tonight on a neutral field, and Blountstown left yesterday. So hopefully they are well rested on the road, but give me Blountstown. I'll say by 14. I think that's a fair assessment. I don't think this Hawthorne team can really stop the run. Their defensive wise, they've actually given up more rushing yards than passing yards this season. And I think the key for Blountstown is feeding Amari Thomas early and often. So as long as that happens, Blountstown's going to be in a good position. And so far this season, no one has done that. So until otherwise, I'm going to take the Blountstown Tigers to bring back a state championship to Northwest Florida.
I mean, I'm probably going to have – I don't think it's an ice cold take. But I think that the state championship in the rural bracket's already been played. I think when Madison County and Blountstown played in the second round, that was essentially the state championship game. I don't like Hawthorne in this. I think Blountstown blows them out. I think it's going to be 35 points. I think they're going to run and clock them.
Yeah, Blountstown sort of had the hardest. I think if you look at this bracket, Blountstown had the hardest trip to get here to this point. I mean, facing a Madison County team who has been down this year, and when I say down, I mean they've won. That finished. I think they finished regular season 6-4, I believe. So to them, even though a winning season, that's still down because that is Madison County. But this is a Madison County team that lost by 2 to a Pace team who was at that time had. What's his name? We haven't talked to Mikkel Williams. We haven't talked about Mikkel Williams in a long time, but Mikkel Williams is healthy that trip, and that offensive line is amazing. I think one of the offensive linemen for Pace signed with Clemson this week, and the Pace head coach said that he's probably the best Pace high player who's ever came through the program in terms of just on-field talent and as a general decent person. So,
I like how the Milton alum is like, this is like the most decent human being that's been through the Pace High program.
Well, there's been a lot of people through that Pace High program. I went to a school called Avalon Middle School here. And the thing about Avalon Middle School is that all depended on where you live, because at the time there was no state choice back in 2000, in the late 2000s. So half of those kids I knew went to Pace, and half of those kids joined me at Milton. So there was a lot of friends I had made at Avalon Middle School who went to Pace, and my senior year I played against them and we beat them. I mean, that's all you have to do. I mean, but for a couple of years, Pace had our number. I think in my Milton High career, we were 1-3 against Pace. So it just happens to be that way. But I will always love the kids who even though Pace and Milton are rivals, I can say they have a good football team, which. Unlike you, Christopher, when you talk about Texas colleges, you won't say anything nice about any other Texas school. At least I can say something about nice about Pace. So I guess maybe I'm a decent.
I even hate the University Incarnate Word. I hate them all. Go Ponies.
Oh my gosh. Man, we'll move on. So we're both taking Blountstown very heavily. We'll be right back after this commercial, and we'll talk about the game that everyone wants to talk about, Choctaw versus American Heritage. So stay tuned right here. Final Approach to Game Day, brought to you by our friends at Final Approach Irrigation.
You know your lawn's looking a little bit janky. All those busted up sprinkler heads, dead patches. It's okay though. Final Approach Irrigation's got you. Their experienced and knowledgeable staff will quickly diagnose the problem and get right to work fixing it. Final Approach Irrigation is the best in the game, and they'll keep your lawn looking undefeated this fall. The refs won't be throwing any flags on them. They'll do you right every single time. Absolutely fair and transparent pricing, along with honest work ethic and integrity. Check them out over at finalapproachirrigation.com to get started today. Thanks again to our friends at Final Approach Irrigation for sponsoring this show and making sure you know everything there is to know about high school football here on the Emerald Coast this season.
And we are back after our last commercial break. Thank you to our friends at Final Approach Irrigation who have been with us all season long. Hunter Brock, this is the time of year to get your lawn in order, your irrigation system in order, so that when it gets warmer this spring, you'll be the envy of all the dads on the neighborhood because you have the best lawn.
And my homie won't let your pipes freeze. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want those sprinklers to freeze over. So give Hunter a call.
And also, he needs all the help he can get because he just welcomed a newborn. So, kids ain't cheap. Christopher has 3 of them, he'll tell you. But the best part about this show is the game that everyone's excited for. Even the Niceville High on Facebook, through their support behind the Choctaw Indians on Facebook. I guess the entire community is really rallying around this Choctawhatchee Big Green team, and they're hosting the defending 4A state champions from a year ago, the American Heritage Patriots. Choctaw is a 4-point favorite at home over the defending 4A champions. And when the brackets first came out, Christopher, a lot of people who didn't know ball like I do said that the American Heritage was 7-5. This team can't possibly be that good. But you look deeper at this American Heritage team, and you realize that
you look deeper. You do math.
You do the stats, but this American Heritage team, their 5 losses are against probably some of the toughest competition in high school football in the country.
And they're not blowouts either.
Yeah, not blowouts. They lost. So their first, and I don't have their losses. I'm trying to do everything off the noggin. Christopher can probably pull that up.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah. So while I talk, Christopher will pull it up. But I know their first loss of the season was against the Charminade-Madonna team in 2A, who are world beaters, who are still in the playoffs to this point, and they're approaching a 2A state title. They also lost to the best team in Louisiana on the road. They actually flew to New Orleans to face the number 8 team in the country, the number 1 team in Louisiana, lost in overtime by 7. Also lost to St. Thomas Aquinas. Very rarely. Who else did they lose to, Christopher?
Archbishop McCarthy, 13-10. Let's see. So St. Thomas Aquinas by 7, Archbishop McCarthy by 3, so that's 10. Central by 10, that's 20. 7, 27, 27, and 4. So 31 divided by 5 is roughly a 6-point margin in each game. So they're not losing these games by much. Took on an Edna Carr team that's pretty strong there out of Louisiana. Madonna, always very good. Apparently they have 200 kids at the school, and 50 of the kids at the school are going to go play Division I football. So that's neat. Definitely doesn't override anybody's arguments about school size being the determining factor and whether or not you should play other schools. Just saying. And so they're good. Don't get me wrong. I think they're good, but I think there's a lot of environmental factors that I don't think people are overlooking necessarily, but I maybe place a higher value on them than conventional wisdom might. And conventional wisdom usually right. So for me stepping out here, I fully recognize that I might get my face punched in for this one, but I think there's a couple of really important factors in this game tonight that are going to matter. So first one, probably the most conventional. These guys just flew up here yesterday, 600-mile plane flight to come up here somewhere you're not used to, hour time change. Maybe you get like a little bit nervous and all of a sudden you can't fall asleep. All of a sudden you're up for 30 minutes and you're just thinking about, I didn't get the optimal amount of sleep. I mean, that's something. Second thing is the weather itself. So 50 degrees outside right now, rainy. That's not something that happens in South Florida a whole lot. I mean, the rain happens, but the cold don't. And that can mess with people. I think just being outside of your environment, away games mess with people, right? The next thing I would add, and it's something that Hunter Brock would, Michael Brock, a buddy of mine from high school, shout out to Michael Brock. But Hunter Brock would tell you is that the field conditions are ripe for an upset. And I'm not gonna, yeah, I am. In 1415, King Henry V had to fight a losing retreat from France. The French, there are a lot of French people, and there's not as many English people. And he had to make a stand at a place on the Brittany coast called Agincourt. And at the Battle of Agincourt, they knew that they were heavily outnumbered and they had to be smart. So they got all the heavily armored knights to run into a mud pit, get stuck down in the mud, and then shot them with bows and arrows. They had to play the field. They had to play it smart. And they had the natural advantage of having tons of Welsh archers that knew exactly what to do in a situation like this. I think Choctaw is the same way. They had the right personnel to do what many people are not expecting, or we're not expecting. I know they're 4-point favorites, but not too many people thought they'd get this far at this point, right? All this metaphor goes to show that Their personnel are in the right place. The battle space is ripe for an upset of a former state champion. I think that all these things put together make Choctaw strong favorites. I think 4 points is a little stingy. I think 7 is probably closer. Not to say that one thing goes wrong and Choctaw loses, but American Heritage does have, of course, 9 Division I commits on their team. Choctaw has 3. So just looking at those numbers straight up, you'd say, oh, Chochtaw's going to lose this. And, American Heritage is going to win. But this is the trap game of all trap games. I like Choctaw in this. And I think that this will also be the hardest game that they play all year. So if they win, I think that they're the favorites in the state championship game.
Oh, absolutely. I was, if you look at the bracket here with Jones High and Port Charlotte, I think if you were a Choctaw team, you probably didn't want to see American Heritage in the first round of this Final Four. They were probably, I think, the toughest on the field. They have the toughest strength of schedule. They have a lot of D1 speed on the perimeter of this offense, especially with the wide receivers and a great running back who they don't really necessarily run the ball a lot, but I think that they mostly get their onus through the air. Unfortunately for American Heritage, Leon Strader, who was their quarterback for the whole entire year, he's injured and he will not be playing this game. Dia Bell, who is also a senior, who's also a college commit as well. I can't believe that we have there. That's how much college talent, D1 talent is on this team. He will be starting, and this is going to be the biggest game of his career as well. But I will say, shout out to Gareth Stearns, because he had this interesting stat that he told me that American Heritage, the entire 2025 campaign, has not played on a grass field all year long.
That's wild.
That is level of research that I would not even do, talking about a game preview. And with the amount of rain that we've had, according to the National Weather Service, I think Fort Walton Beach has had 5 inches of rain from Thursday and Friday combined. I guarantee you the field conditions aren't going to be that great. And I think this plays into Choctaw's hands just a little bit. It slows down the pace of play, and we know that Choctaw has an impressive running attack with Von Keller and this entire great big green running room. Taman Zabakis is also mobile as well. He can get outside the pocket. He can break runs as well. I think this kind of plays into Choctaw's hands a little bit. Even without the rain, I still think Choctaw is the favorite, but I think the Mother Nature is playing into Choctaw's hands this year, and it seems like this whole entire year for this big green team, it seems like it's a team of destiny to get to this point. And I think if they beat American Heritage tonight, which I think they will, I'm going to say 28-24. So I'm going to take the 4 points. I think Choctaw actually wins the state title, because I think they can beat Jones and Port Charlotte straight up. I think the amount of talent that Choctaw has, especially with that defense led by Terrence Brooks, who you talked to earlier in the season, this is probably one of the best defensive runs that Northwest Florida has seen in a very long time. I know that Niceville defense from last year was just as good as this Choctaw defense, but this Choctaw defense has been, I guess the best way I can describe it is it's kind of like watching the 2000 Miami Hurricanes, if you remember that defense. Like they're just killers, man. They will stop people. And
wasn't Ray Lewis on that team? Colin,
who's Ray Lewis? He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Anyway, I have a Ravens jersey. I was wacko for Flacco back in 2008.
Flacco, right?
Flacco,
but yeah,
best thing from Delaware.
Going out of this, Dr. Jones High and Port Charlotte also in that other side of the bracket. Port Charlotte, first time to ever win a region championship. So I think that's going to be a cool game as well to keep an eye on in the corner of your screen as you're watching Choctaw, hopefully, possibly, maybe, knock on wood, take a dub. It's an exciting time, though, man. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I can't remember the last time Northwest Florida had this much playoff excitement around one team. And the reason this is just so excited, and because I haven't seen this in a while. Because remember, Niceville went to the Final Four last year, and they were on the road to Lakeland. And mind you, they took Lakeland to overtime.
3-OT, baby. 3-OT.
And
There was a titanic effort, a Herculean effort by the Eagles. I think that Choctaw does not have an easy pass in this game, and I probably am not being like serious enough about that. I don't think that this is going to be a walkover for Choctaw. I mean, we both said it, right? Like 9 Division I commits for American Heritage. There's a lot going for Choctaw in this. But yeah, I think it's going to be 4-7. I think 4 points is a fair prediction. I think 7 points is where I'm going to be at. I think they're going to win it by a touchdown. But they're going to have to put in the work. They're going to have to win it, right? And it's not given at this level. It's not given at this point in the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, each game from this point out, I know. I think once you got past the first round of the playoffs, the games get a little tougher each week.
Mm-hmm.
I know Booker T. Washington, and I don't want to give them like their undue credit because they did make the playoffs and they were at one point the best team in Escambia County, and it turned out that no one wanted to win District 1 4A this year, so they were eventually in it. But I think the easy thing to say is Choctaw, until they played Columbia and St. Augustine, didn't really play anyone. But you could say that about Enterprise too, because they had a down year. And mind you, Enterprise went 6-4, but the first 4 games of the season they were down 15 players because people weren't eligible, and then they got those guys back. So I mean, you kind of feel bad for Enterprise because they had such a great team, and they didn't go to the playoffs this year. I would say that loss to Enterprise, I think, probably lit a fire under his Choctaw Indians team, and to say that that this team is probably a team is really fair to think, and to think that if they win tonight, it's almost going to be a party like 1990, because that's the last time Choctaw was ever in a position like this where they could actually win a state title. And for Frank Beasley to not only build this team over the past couple of years, but for him to be an alma mater of Choctaw High School, to do this for his alma mater, to do this for his school, I think there's so many great storylines that followed this Choctaw team this entire year, and I can't wait to actually go to the game tonight. I know Christopher won't be there, but I will. To see how many people actually show up, given the sort of terrible conditions that we've been seeing. I know it's rainy, I know it's cold, but if this is true, that all the schools are going to come together to be at Choctaw High School tonight,
that's cool.
That's going to be a very fun thing to see. And shout out to Gareth Stearns and that entire Choctaw broadcast team. I think they're the ringleaders behind this. So hopefully people show out to Joe Etheridge Stadium tonight to support the Choctaw Big Green. I implore, if you're watching this in Escambia County or Okaloosa, Santa Rosa County too, to support this team in any way you can, because I mean, they're doing it for us. I mean, this is sort of the game where a lot of people think when you get to this far, you're facing teams from Central and South Florida, and teams from the Panhandle can't necessarily compete with that sort of talent that is seen in Central and South Florida. And I think Choctaw is in the best position that it can possibly to say, hey, we know ball up here. And, when I was in high school, we didn't win a state title, but we won a district title. And we got to the second round of the playoffs. We lost to a Navarre team that was destined for what we thought at the time was a state title, but they didn't make it out of the region. But, I understand that this team has worked so hard from the summer training, spring camp, summer ball, all through this fall. There's injuries that have beset this team. Alloway was out for a couple weeks with injury. It seems like this Choctaw team is healthy. And when that defense is healthy, they're probably the best defense in probably in the country. You could probably put them up against anybody, and Choctaw can probably hang in there and win. So, you know what? Screw Choctaw by 4. Choctaw by 1,000,000 tonight.
Choctaw by Cats by 40, Indians by 1,000,000. I mean, spare a thought for Frank Beasley, who has had the march all the way up from 1-8 the season before he got here. I mean, there's a lot of programs that would just maybe lay down and die after a couple bad years, which is what they had before, Beasley showed up, decided to come out from being a FHSA admin dude and taking back the reins and making stuff happen. And it's not by accident. I mean, there's a lot of people that believe in the mission of Choctaw Indians football that you can see, right? The coaches are there. You see people. I mean, I remember going to the South Walton game where Choctaw went over to the 331 bridge to take on the Seahawks. And like the number of people that were there for an away game was pretty impressive. I mean, now I will say like Niceville travels pretty well. Right. So I think that the fact that Choctaw, had a couple of bad years mixed in there in the last 25 years and didn't expect it. The fans have been hungrier. They want to see something like this. When you're not guaranteed the playoffs every year, something like this is pretty special. So, and I don't want to say guaranteed, but
last week too.
Dude, that was crazy.
Yeah,
and I got to see, and I saw Choctaw Letterman jackets, which like I thought that people in Florida didn't have Letterman jackets because it's 1,000,000 degrees here all the time.
I have mine.
But that's what I'm saying. Nobody ever wears them because it's too hot. But there they were. And so I'd love to see that. Love to see what was the crane, the easy lift crane that they had the offensive coordinator on. That was cool. This is the stuff that matters. This is, I think, where I think all the people that are mad about the professionalism of college football, right, are going to start moving to like watching high school football as the thing that they enjoy doing. So Dad, if you're watching this, high school football is for you. It's the love of the game. It's watching people go out. It's, dumb mistakes and amazing plays and wonderful, moments and absolute sheer gut punch wounding losses and the joys of winning. That's what makes high school football and really sports in general just so enjoyable to watch. And so I think that whether or not they win tonight, this has been a real boost for the community and these kids. And so that, to me, that's what it's about. Right. And that's why I think that this stuff matters. That's why we cover this stuff at Mid-Bay News when we could be spending time on deep investigative pieces about groups of people that we should be probably spending a little more time writing about. We'll get to that. But I think that this stuff also matters because it's what makes us a community. So I'm happy about it. I'm happy for Choctaw. I think this is really cool. And I hope they win. I hope they win big.
Yeah, I agree too. I think if Choctaw wins tonight and they move on, I think they'll be favorites against the Jones Higher Port Charlotte. And, they could break a state title back to Northwest Florida. I think, it's kind of weird that, there are 3 teams in Northwest Florida playing for a state title this week. I know Bronstown can bring one home tonight. Tate could have brought one home yesterday, but they fell 10-0 to Garcia in the FIT 4A state and 4A 7A state championship game. But shout out to the Tate Aggies for finishing 10-4. And, I think giving everyone hope that Tate probably should have been in the 6A playoffs this year. Mm-hmm. I think they kind of showed that, but unfortunately their quarterback got hurt and they were running Wildcat all night, which, I mean, they were able to drive down the field, but they just couldn't get it done in the red zone. But I think Northwest Florida football is getting better and better every single year. I mean, we look at this Niceville team who was this year very young. Deegan McCoy's coming back next year. You have Jacoby Gilliard, who is an amazing freshman running back who will only just get better next year. You have a Milton team who's turned around and is better now under Coach Ronnie Douglas. You have a Pace team who's excelling. You have a Crestview team who started off slow but got their footing at the end of the season. It looks like they are on to a promising 2026 campaign. Baker, finished their regular season 10-0. They made it to the playoffs. They made it to the second round of the rural playoffs, and unfortunately their season ended with a loss. But, I mean, there's promise there. And then you look in the Walton County schools with Phil Tiza going 3-7 in 2023, turning around in 2024, turning around his program, going to the 2A regional semifinals against Pensacola Catholic, although they fell. Freeport looks to probably get their act together in 2026. Walton get more. There's going to be a lot of teams good next year in 2026, and hopefully that means more Northwest Florida schools get the competition they need at an earlier, and like in the regular season. That basically gives them like the experience to where they can face these South Florida teams in the playoffs. And when everyone succeeds, and like even Tate's good too. Like. There's some good football in Northwest Florida, and I think that talent can translate to state titles in the future. So this is a very exciting time for high school football in our area.
Right on. Well, that's all I got, dude. Go Indians. Go Big Green.
Go Indians, go Big Green. It's by the way, let's just plug some things. It's gonna be a big week at Big Bay News.
Oh, we got other sports stuff. We have other sports stuff, guys.
Yeah. Tomorrow and Sunday, if the rain holds off, Mid Bay News is, I guess, covering the biggest sporting event that Mid Bay News has ever covered. The Snowball Derby, which is going to be in Pensacola. It's going to be a return to my roots. So someone who got their start in racing as a journalist, going back to Five Flag Speedway for the first time as a professional in 5 years. So that's going to be very fun for us. So there's going to be videos of, we're going to do behind the scenes stuff about the track. We're going to interview drivers. There's going to be some great drone footage. We're going to get some footage from the race. But if rain holds off, which it looks like Sunday it might, we get the 58th running of the Snowball Derby. And if you want to know more about that race, we have an article on midbaynews.com explaining what the Snowball Derby is, what a super late model is, who's in it. Because, Kyle Busch is a 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion and a Snowball Derby champion. He's looking for wins. Bubba Pollard's been in the Derby for 18 years. He's won everything in short track racing but the Snowball Derby. So there's exciting storylines there. And, we hope to see you next Friday as we talk about Choctaw going for a state title in 4A, which will be very exciting as well. Also, on Monday, we'll update the standings for men's and girls basketball. As you know, the Paxton Bobcats, I don't know if you guys know about this, but entering week 3, the Paxton Bobcats were the only team in Northwest Florida who were undefeated.
Thank God, man. They are really good at basketball. Them and Laurel Hill. The boys over at Laurel Hill are typically so good. Girls at Paxton, guys at Paxton are pretty good. I love the rural level basketball stuff. So Ponce de Leon, Paxton, Baker, Jay. Those are always fun.
And shout out to the boys basketball team at Rocky Bayou. Yeah. 5-1 to start the season.
I think they're having the best season, maybe not ever, but dadgum close.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, we have winter sports going on. We have basketball, and I know in February the temperatures get a little warmer. We have baseball, and that's going to be very exciting for Mid Bay News because Niceville baseball is going to be exciting. South Walton baseball is going to be exciting. Fort Walton Beach is coming off of I believe a state title win in 4A over the American Heritage Patriots from a year ago. So there's going to be a lot more sports coverage on Mid Bay News, and it's going to be very exciting. But we got to make it through this weekend first before we talk about any more Choctaw. Yeah. But also read our newsletter because you can see Christopher's very opinionated piece if you're not signed up to our newsletter. Do you want to talk about that, Christopher, before we go? Do you want to get more people?
I can't even remember what I wrote. Oh yeah. So basically, I said, "Here's the deal, man. I love sports. Sports is important. Don't get me wrong." But it's also we put a lot of time and effort into this show here. So, we're not necessarily hard the other way. We should never have any sports ever, obviously. But we spend a lot of time talking about this stuff, and we should also spend a lot of time focusing in on what matters, the academics. Part of the reason I make this whole argument about the local schools playing other local schools. Everybody's like, well, Baker would lose by 50, but I don't think that's necessarily the point. I think the point is that these kids get to play ball. They get to play it close. We're not spending $20,000, $30,000 on charter bus trips to the ends of the earth for first rounds of playoff games or even region games. It's you spend money on what's important. And sometimes we don't always reflect the balance between academics and athletics in general, or how we feel about stuff. And I realize I'm saying this on a high school sports show, but it's important. It's important to remember that, especially when it comes to the way that we implement policy throughout our school districts in the entire state, throughout the Department of Education, through the FHSAA. So reforming that, I think, is ultimately what we need to do in order to change the incentives a little bit, talk about what is actually important, making sure that kids read good and do other stuff good too, to borrow a line from Derek Zoolander, noted education enthusiast. So if you want to be a part of the newsletter where we're a little more loose and we talk to the homies, show up there, midbaynews.com/newsletters where you can get that.
And it's free. And there's polls sometimes.
We do polls.
Yeah, we do polls. We love polls.
Trisha does polls. Trisha a menace when it comes to polls. That's why we love her.
Oh, hold on. Speaking of Trisha, real quick, we got to do a shout out real quick because on Tuesday in Fort Walton Beach, there's a small sliders opening up.
Yeah.
And real quick, Cat Dog says, "Is there a radio station we can tune into for the game?" Yes, there is. 94.3 FTW and 103.7 the Ticket Sports Network. Gareth Stearns will be on the call. I can't remember. I don't remember everyone else, but I know Gareth's there, and he will be bringing you live coverage. The thing is, I will say, Gareth cannot broadcast on Facebook. He probably will get banned from Facebook if he does that.
He died so we could live.
the rusty hammer from the FHSAA will come down upon him. So if you want to watch the game, you can do that on the NFHS network, although you have to pay for a subscription to it. But you can listen to the radio for free. Well, as long as you have a radio, you have to buy the radio or the car.
You do have to buy the radio or the car
or your cell phone plan. But you can
can you imagine somebody Grand Theft Autoing for a radio to listen to Choctaw game?
I gotta steal your car. I gotta listen. The Indians are up by 3 to go. They're down by 3, and they need it's like 2 minutes to go. They're gonna make a drive. Get out of the car.
Oh man, yeah, we've done our bit for today, man.
If you want to watch the stream, just email me at Colin@Midbay News, and I will send you a link, and you can use my subscription.
And Colin will also be at the game, so wave at your boy.
I'll be in a tan Carhartt jacket because your boy, it gets cold.
Yeah, and he'll send updates on social, and we'll put up pictures, and he will get me video, and we will run the video online.
Yeah, tonight. Because if I don't get it up tonight, Christopher will fire me.
We didn't have to tell him all that.
He said that he says this as a laugh, but we're recording the show. Usually I'm at the field or in my truck. We're in the office, and Christopher, as soon as this is over, he will walk out of his office, come to my office, and he will bludgeon me with a hammer. So
I won't bludgeon with a hammer.
I won't see you guys at the Derby tomorrow because
he's too valuable to the company for me to bludgeon him with a hammer. Anyway, comments, all that stuff. We'll look at it. We'll respond to it. We'll put hot takes next to it. We'll make everybody angry. We'll build engagement.
Go Big Green.